Hello, you wonderful people. Welcome to English Right Now. Joining me in this very special lesson is my beautiful, wonderful, charming wife, Luciana. Welcome.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. And in this lesson, we're going to talk about the mindset, the lessons we kind of learned as well, but the mindset that you need when adapting to a new country. And of course, I've lived in Brazil. I spent 3 years living in Brazil. You are from Brazil. I lived with you in Brazil for 3 years. And now you're living in the UK with me, which is where I'm from. And we're going to talk about all those kind of things. And before we start, I'm just going to say, if you've noticed that my wife is in a woods, she's she's in the woods. It's basically because for some reason this microphone couldn't uh, pick us both up at the same time. So you went out. You decided to go and sit in the woods. That's why you're out there. It's not.
Yep.
Yeah. You look like you're having a great time. And we also had this kind of thing
Beautiful.
about what should we call each other on the podcast because it's not normal for you to call me Roy and for me to call you
No.
anything but Lou. But, so you'll find out during the lesson. And what I will say is this isn't going to be just a one-off lesson. I would like my wife to come back again to talk about more things. So if you do have any questions about life in the UK, about how to live in the UK, please do ask in the comments below. But let's first of all talk about when you move to a new country, there are things that you miss. There are things that you're like, oh,
Yeah.
what do how do you deal with missing things?
Oh, first of all, it's a natural thing, isn't it? It's human. It's normal that you're gonna miss things, miss people. But I think that it's about you how you deal with this missing bit. If you are missing people, missing your country in a way that you kind of appreciate and you are a bit nostalgic, it's one thing, it's natural. But if you are like, oh, I am missing things in a way that I am feeling incomplete and I won't ever be able to be happy because I don't have these things right now,
Yeah,
then is an issue. Then it's something that you need to be careful with because you end up not appreciating what you have right now.
yeah.
You end up not seeing the joys and the little things that are wonderful here as well.
I think that's an interesting word as well, the word missing. Because
Yeah.
if you think about that word missing,
Yeah.
if you have a jigsaw puzzle and there is a piece missing, then it is incomplete. If
Yeah.
you have a machine and there is a part missing, then potentially it is broken. So using that word missing, it implies that your experience is now broken to some degree, that you've no longer got everything that you wanted.
Yeah.
And I think if we constantly sort of look at what we've lost rather than what we win, if you like, what we gain, if you're constantly thinking about what you're losing, you're never going to really appreciate what you've gained in your life. I saw a wonderful TED talk about life, the story that you tell will frame your life basically. So
Yes.
if you sort of say, I had this, I had X, Y, and Z, and now I don't, my life is rubbish because I've lost all these things, then you are going to be miserable. It impacts on your mental health. And it's this kind of idea that you've no longer got things. But if you say, okay, I had this, but now I have this, I
Yeah.
have X, Y, this is amazing. Then you start to see the positive. And it's not about embellishing, it's not about lying, it's the story you tell. The way you tell your life story will
Yeah.
impact not only on your own mental health, but on others' views of you.
Yeah. It is basically how do you want to tell your story in a position like you are the victim or you are the hero and the main character of your story. And it's
Yeah.
about embracing new adventures and new perspectives and not being too attached to the experience that you used to have before.
Yeah. I must admit that, because I've lived in Brazil and I think I found this out. I think I probably, you learned somewhat from my experience as well. So when I moved to Brazil, I missed. you miss some random things as well. Like I missed sausage rolls and I missed little things I never thought I'd miss. Of course, I missed my family. Of course, I did. But I missed random things. But I really missed the pub culture. And rather than try to, at first, I learned this the hard way. Rather than try to embrace new things and learn, like discover what I'd gained, I was trying to recreate my old life. So I found other people that spoke English. They were from like New Zealand, Australia. They're wonderful people. But I wasn't really experiencing Brazil. I was creating my own experience, my own England, if you like, uh,
Yeah.
in in Brazil. And I think that that actually was really detrimental to my adaptation process, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think that comparing things all the time is the real danger there. Because if you are always looking at the things that you have right now, but missing other stuff, then you are always comparing. You're always trying to find the food from your own country here in the UK. And then you basically, if you always try to find the food from your own country here, for example, you will end up missing out the new food and new experience and stuff like that. So, for example, here, sometimes I ask you and I say, Roy, what is the best dish here? What would you recommend me? And then you normally put your perspective and I open up myself to new experience.
Yeah.
Because if I choose with the mentality from my own country, then I will try to seek for the familiar
Yes.
that I'm not gonna be able to find here. I'm not gonna be able to recreate the same experiences from there here, and that will end up in frustration and is gonna be disappointing, isn't it? Instead
Yeah.
of actually being able to get surprised, to be surprised with something amazing and something new that and
Yeah.
creating new memories.
And I'll also say it's okay not to like something. That's another
Yes.
thing as well. This is, it's okay to try something, but it depends why you don't like it. If you don't like
Right.
it because it's just not what you want in life, that's absolutely fine. If you don't like it because, for example, it's not the same as what you wanted it to be from back home, that's maybe not the right way to go about it either, because
Yeah.
you are fundamentally setting yourself up to fail. So if I go
Exactly.
to Brazil and I try something that looks a bit like a sausage roll, I don't think you really, anyway, it looks like a sausage roll. I want it to be a sausage roll and it's not a sausage roll, then that's on me because I set that expectation. And that's the same with all experiences, but it's about trying them in the first place.
Yeah, definitely. I believe that your what you think it can shape your experience, the way you approach life, the way you think. So if you are too if you are already expecting that you're not gonna like it, you're not
Yeah.
gonna like it. You need to be open for the new experiences as well. You need to surrender and surrender yourself and say like, okay, I'm gonna try with no expectations, not already expecting that I'm not gonna like it.
Yeah.
And then you can actually surprise yourself with something new, something amazing, and you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I think as well, it goes back to this idea of like this story, the idea. I love this thing about you've got to think about what you're gaining. You've got to think about, you've often talked about you had toucans in Brazil, but now you've got red squirrels. If you look for toucans in England, you're not going to be satisfied. If you look for
Yeah.
red squirrels in Brazil, it's not going to be the same. So you've got to embrace the new. And I think that story idea, I think you're absolutely right. I completely agree with you about the mindset. Your mindset will shape your experience of, if you go into it thinking I'm going to have a terrible time, nobody's going to understand me, I'm not going to enjoy it, the weather's terrible, then you're not going to have a great time.
And one thing as well that I see lots of people doing is when they are in their country, they complain about everything of their country. But once they are here, their country becomes the most amazing place ever with no flaws at all, and this country becomes the worst place ever. Those are people that they just want to complain. Doesn't matter where they go, they will find what they're gonna complain about it. So here in the UK, they're gonna complain about the weather, they're gonna complain about the food, they're gonna complain about the prices, about everything. And when they go to their country, they'll complain about the safety. They are gonna complain about being
The
too
prices, the
hot.
weather, the same
The
things.
price, the same thing. So they will always see the negative aspects of every country that they go. That
Yeah.
then if then the problem is not the place, is the
It's the
mindset and
mindset.
how
Yeah.
you are going to deal with the things.
Yeah.
Maybe yes,
I
maybe it is too cold, but is it anything better than watch TV under a blanket with a fireplace and
sounds
drinking hot
perfect.
chocolate and having a gingerbread? Find positive things even when you have stuff that could be negative. You can still find
100%.
positive things that will make your experience better. It depends on how you're gonna see it.
And I was going to say, talking about the cold aspect, particularly the weather and things like this. Do you remember the time you were really complaining about the cold? You were saying, "Oh, I'm so cold, I'm so cold." Do you remember what I said to you? I said, "You're cold. That's a fact. Accept it." And
Yeah.
complaining about it's not going to change it. You kind of almost need to say, "Okay, I'm cold. This is how it is. It's good." And I think that that can help as well. Not in all aspects, but
Yeah.
something how did you find that sort of thing? Did that help you?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was one of the biggest lessons that you actually taught me because once you accept the situation, you are able to reframe it in a positive way. So, and that's the thing as well. We are commenting about those stuff not because I am like Buddha that came to this this place completely like already knowing how to adapt, already knowing all. I made mistakes when I arrived. I had I had my period of adaptation as well.
Yeah.
And now I can say that I am fully adapted. And those are the things that I learned through this whole process. So
It
yes, I had
it
my
sounds
period of complaining. I had my period of
we all do. We all do.
yeah,
Too hot,
but
too cold,
yeah,
nowhere's Goldilocks. That's the thing. But I think, and it sounds a bit cruel to just say you're cold, okay, that's it. But it's not about that. It's about the more you put energy into thinking about, oh, I'm cold, I'm cold, I'm cold, I'm cold, the more power you're giving it, I think, as well.
definitely.
And the more you're allowing it to take over. If you just go, okay, I can't change this, but put on a coat, put on a scarf. A lot of people don't dress for the weather, they don't adapt. If I go to Brazil and I'm wearing a coat and big boots and everything, I'm going to be hot.
Yeah,
And then if I complain I'm hot, then well, there's things you can make your life easier
yeah.
as well.
But, yeah, it's basically how can you make the most even if the situation is not ideal. If it's raining, what can you do that rain will actually become something positive?
Go dance in the rain. Park your car up, put the lights on, dance in the rain. Fantastic idea.
Right.
Um,
Yeah,
why not? Just have fun. Go and splash in some puddles like kids like to do. These kind of things. It can be good fun. Or go, as you say, go and find a warm pub, sit by the fire, and have a nice
that's it. That's better. I
beer
would
or a hot
suggest that
chocolate.
instead of dancing in the rain, to be honest.
Oh, rejected. But
What is it?
this is really a fascinating thing, and I will say we've talked about adaptation. It is a process, the adaptation process. We talk about this, um, and it can be difficult. And one thing that can sometimes stand anyway is not understanding traditions, cultures, um, sometimes what people are saying, and they're actually the subtext that they're using. And we're actually working on a course. We've been working on a course about adapting to life in the UK. It's called "What the British Say versus What They Actually Mean," and it talks about UK history, culture. What is the UK? What is Great Britain, and all these kind of things. It goes into British humour, the do's and don'ts. there's a lot of things, and we're actually sort of, it's a new course, but we're going to be creating it with students and for students. So I'm sort of asking for lots of advice from existing students on other courses about what they think and what they would like to know in a course. And it's a course designed to help people who are curious about living in the UK, or indeed living in the UK or moving to the UK. And there is more information on that down below. It's a brand new course. More information in the link below.
And you also will get a massive discount because it's going to be the first class ever.
Yeah. So check out that for more information down below.
Mm.
But adapting to a new country isn't easy. There are steps, there are moments. And I think one of the key lessons that you have to learn is, in my opinion, resilience. Resilience is key. And you once said, because I do a lot of sort of social media, I've got Instagram and things like that, and I get some people making fun and saying things. And you asked me, how are you so resilient? And I said, I think the key to being resilient is not just, saying, okay, and dealing with the things that people say and they do, because people can say and do things that can affect you. It's not letting that affect you, but it's also not letting the things that people don't say and don't letting those affect you as well. It's about resilience is just not letting the things that people do and don't do, or say and don't say, affect you. That's my opinion on that one. I think resilience is key. And when you gain that kind of almost like, okay, I'm going to enjoy my life. I know things will happen, but who cares? Then you can really embrace the experience. I'm thinking about sometimes when people misunderstand what you say, or they don't understand, and they go, huh? What? Well, they don't tend to do, actually, they make a face. I had it in Brazil. People go like, and you've had it here, like this kind of,
Yeah.
and it's this sort of face that basically British people do this a lot. They're sort of trying to fake that they understand you, to reassure you, to not make it uncomfortable. But at the same time, they're like, yeah, totally. But they haven't understood, and it's crushing. Have you had this before?
I think that everybody that live in another country at some point will face this. It doesn't matter your level of English. It doesn't matter anything, because I think people sometimes panic as well, don't they? They see that you are from another country and they already sometimes expect that, I don't know, that you won't speak the language very well or something like that,
Yeah.
and then they will assume, they will not pay attention completely, if it
Yeah, we
makes
call that a
sense.
mental block. And I think that's a really important lesson, because I often say this to my students: don't always make it about you. If there's a
Yeah,
miscommunication, it's not always about you. Sometimes, as you say, they don't think they're going to understand.
yeah.
Sometimes they're not listening. Other times they've got things going on in their lives, like, oh God, I've got so many bills to pay, I don't know what to do. They're not thinking, they're not fully concentrating on on the conversation with you, which is unfair. And then they suddenly go, Sorry? And
Or
then you
could
make that
be
about
even
you.
a hearing disability.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it could be hearing. There's a lot of reasons. I mean, of course, sometimes accent, pronunciation. Of course, sometimes pronunciation can be a bit of an issue. We've talked about that, and there's ways that you can improve that. We have a course, the Ultimate British Pronunciation Guide, which
yeah,
is aimed to help you master a modern British RP accent. That can help, but it's not always about you. But if you make it about you can become really sad, really isolated, or
mm,
you can also become quite angry and frustrated at your experience. Like, they don't understand me. I don't like it here. I've heard people say, "Oh, British people, they don't want to talk to me." Of course they do. But if there's that block instantly, if you imagine that that's going to happen, it's going to happen.
yeah. And I would say as well to not take yourself too seriously, to be able as well to laugh at your own mistakes, make fun of yourself, because that's the other thing that you taught me. Then once you laugh at yourself, at your own mistakes, you take the power from other people when you get that power back to you.
Yeah.
So then, yes, then if somebody misunderstands me nowadays, I laugh. I was like, oh, did I say that wrong? How do you normally say? And I laugh, and I was like, oh, I said onion, you know, things like that.
You don't like that word, do you?
No, I don't like it. But I can laugh. I can laugh when I
Yeah.
make the mistake, and I
Yeah.
can actually say, oh, I hate this word. I make fun of it, and I am honest with my own difficulties, and then I think it's that as well about being authentic and getting the power back.
This is also a resilience thing. Being able to laugh at yourself and being able to go, okay, whatever, who cares, is pure resilience, and well done on that one. But also, self-deprecation, this kind of humor where we almost make a joke of ourselves, make fun of ourselves, is a key part of British humor. British people, we talk about this on the course, what the British say versus what we mean. British self-deprecation, massive. If you can laugh at yourself, British people will love it, and they quite often jump in and they'll sort of make a joke as well. They'll feel comfortable to make a joke about you, but you've taken the power away, and it's not meant in an intentionally bad way. It's great. Like if you say I'm terrible at that, and then somebody goes, "Absolutely, you're the worst." You've already made the joke, so they're not attacking you. They're just kind of
I would say as well, just to be
answer.
careful with just be careful with self-deprecation, because if you laugh at
Yes.
yourself, it's fine. But if you do self-deprecation in kind of a victim way and say
Oh
like,
yeah.
"Oh, I am the worst," and stuff like that, then people are like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay, like get over it,"
If
you
it
know?
gets to the point where you're moaning about yourself and your own existence again, it's hard to listen
Yeah,
to because
yeah.
we've
But if
we've
you are
talked.
doing it in a light way, then it's key, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's good.
Like silly me,
Yeah,
rather than oh I'm the worst, I'm terrible, I'm so silly.
yeah,
There's a fine line, and I think that goes into complaining as well. Don't complain too much. We've talked about this quite a bit. Don't complain too much, but overall, I think what we need to say is your mindset. Um, by the way, on the new course, we are doing quite a few lessons together, aren't we? We're actually recording together.
yes,
Your first three so far we've recorded today before this lesson today, and it's on the. You're in the woods,
yes.
in the middle of a forest. Help me! Um, you know, and things like that. But we're doing a few lessons together about this, about talking about our experiences and our kind of because I've helped you, but I've helped a number of students with their who've come here, and I've helped them to kind of have a better experience of life in the UK. And you, of course, helped me in Brazil as well. But I also went on a journey myself, and I learned the hard way a number of times. There are things that I would love to tell my younger self not to do or to do to make the most of to make the most of the situation. And if you are curious about life in the UK, what I would say is there is another lesson right here on the best food. Rob and I are talking about the best food that you can try in the UK. In our opinion, the top 10 dishes, the top 10 main dishes. Check that out. Just click on here. But what I'm going to say, Luciana, is I miss you. We've been talking about missing things. I miss you. So come on back to the studio so I can give you a hug. See you
Oh,
soon.
see you. Thanks, guys.